Like drumbeats from a distant past, echoes of the 2022 general elections linger and have slipped into the year 2023. Like a man from a short slumber, the Azimio leader Raila Odinga is back, opposing President William Ruto's win, and he's neither ceding ground nor recognizing the current government.
We as Azimio reject the 2022 election result totally.
In this push and pull, more and more allegations are emerging, with the Azimio team claiming that it has new evidence of how the will of Kenyans at the ballot was scuttled and silenced. Now, Azimio leaders are calling for the opening of the IEBC servers.
Sasa hii server mnatuambia tufungue ni gani?
As the blame game deepens, the plot thickens. Meanwhile, political temperatures are rising once again just 6 months after the polls. My name is Fatia Noor, and I will be taking you back in the recent past as we reflect on the 2022 polls. As the political fever reached its peak ahead of the 2022 polls, it was very clear that it would be a two-horse race. Kenya Kwanza Coalition's William Ruto was the man to face it off with Azimio la Umoja Coalition's Raila Odinga. The two gentlemen remained standing as the political wind swept the rest into oblivion. The stars and the moon seemed to align with Azimio's Raila Odinga's long-chased dream of being Kenya's 5th president. For Odinga, it was a 5th attempt at the coveted seat after failing in his previous attempts. At the ripe age of 77, Raila was close yet too far, with fate hanging in between.
Sisi tutashinda kwa sababu tuko na sababu ya kushinda. Tuko na sababu maana yake sisi tumebeba bendera ya ukombozi. Niambia Wakenya kwamba tumeanza harakati ya ukombozi wa tatu.
William Samoei Ruto was then aged just 55 from the sleepy village of Kamaguts in Uasin Gishu. Young and driven, he was a man living his dream. Well, he still does. But all manner of odds seemed stacked high against him, with so many hurdles to jump.
All right. Asante sana.
He was trying to break the record of being the first man to ascend to power after being a deputy president for 2 terms. However, his then boss Uhuru Kenyatta was hearing none of it. The two had not been best of political friends during Kenyatta's 2nd term.
Namwambia rais kwa heshima, tafadhali rafiki yangu bwana president, wewe hatushindani na wewe. Miaka yako 10 tumekupatia. Tulifanya ile tulikuwa tunaweza. So my friend, sasa mbona wewe usiniwachie huyu kitendawili? Mimi nimenyane na yeye. Mundu humundu, mimi niko tayari.
Na sisi kwa kanuni moja tumesema ya kwamba tunataka candidate ambaye atasimama uchaguzi na kugombania kiti ya urais mwezi wa August, na kwa kauli moja tumeamua ya kwamba huyo si mwingine isipokuwa Raila Amolo Odinga. Yes, sir.
The race for the House on the Hill attracted 6 candidates in 2022. Raila Odinga of ODM, William Ruto of United Democratic Alliance or UDA, George Wajakoya of the Roots Party, and David Mwaure Wahiga of Agano Party. Others were Jimmy Wanjigi of Safina Party and comedian Walter Mungare, also known as Nyambane, of Umoja Summit Party. Nyambane and Wanjigi fell by the wayside after failing to meet the threshold of being presidential candidates. The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, or IEBC, threw out the flag bearer of Safina Party, Jimmy Wanjigi, for failing to present the required number of signatures and copies of his party supporters' identity cards. For Walter Mungare, his dream died soon after it was discovered that he had not graduated from Kenyatta University. Clearly, faking it never made it for him.
We respect every aspirant and who will go through this process to be cleared. We respect them. And I just want to say this to my boss, because I served in State House for the last 5 years. And I want to tell my boss, Uhuru Kenyatta, that this is not a competition between me and my boss, but I'm just trying to do what my boss taught me to do.
In March 2018, the nation witnessed a rare turn of politics when then President Uhuru Kenyatta and his longtime political nemesis Raila Odinga closed ranks. It was a unity of convenience that shook many while it held. And as the two became each other's business and harvest, magnitude and bond, Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka and his Amani National Congress colleague Musalia Mudavadi, who were Raila's close allies, found themselves groping in the dark, left in the cold like orphans.
Tumeongea kwa kirefu na tumekubaliana ya kwamba tunataka kuunganisha Kenya iwe taifa moja.
This marks a new beginning for our country, a beginning in which we hope that we shall march together as Kenyans.
According to Kenyatta and Odinga, the handshake was aimed at bridging the gap between the two political sides and end cycles of violence witnessed after each election. But as the two leaders' bond grew tighter, the gap between President Uhuru and his deputy widened. In a noisy unraveling, Ruto sought new political allies. His political marriage with Uhuru, that was founded on the ICC cases, had crumbled. Ruto would later craft his campaign around the hustlers versus dynasties narrative. This galvanized his supporters owing to the fact that his opponents Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga were sons of the founding president Jomo Kenyatta and his vice Oginga Odinga respectively.
The hustler nation is saying this country belongs to all of us and we must all sit at the table where we are going to have a honest national conversation.
Extremism in politics inaweza kuwa mbaya zaidi kuliko tunavyodhania. If you start a class war,
and UDA presidential candidate Dr. William Ruto.
Every presidential candidate would later launch their manifestos with all manner of promises to Kenyans once elected into office. Revitalizing the economy remained the uniting point.
When we have 10 million people without jobs, when we have a debt crisis, and when we have a huge sector that is not working, then we have to carefully craft policy choices so that we can move our country to the next level.
The foundation has partly been laid, but we need to expand on that foundation and move towards achieving the Kenyan dream by dealing a devastating blow to the three major enemies of our people: ignorance, poverty, and disease.
We shall officially reduce the pay that's paid by Kenyans by 50% to enable Kenyans have some money with themselves.
But Roots Party's George Wajakoya's take on legalizing commercial growing of marijuana remains the boldest take issue that characterized the campaign.
1 acre of Bangi can earn you $78,000 or $8 million per harvest. per harvest. A harvest takes only 6 months. Each venomous snake farmer will earn an average of $6,000 or 600,000 per vial antivenom. Kadogo tu hivi unanyonga kidogo, kanatoka chui, kanaingia kwa chupa. Ako peke yake.
Beyond presidential candidates, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission approved a total of 16,098 candidates to vie for 1,882 seats across the country. The seats being sought include member of county assemblies, county women representatives, members of parliament, senators and governors. On July 7th, IEBC received the first batch of ballot papers from Informlikos that is based in Athens, Greece. The company had been awarded a tender worth 3 billion shillings to print and supply the papers. The delivery saw cracks emerge amongst IEBC officials, with some claiming that they were unaware of the arrival of the ballot papers. This put the chair, Wafula Chebukati, in a tight spot. On July 21st, 3 Venezuelan nationals were detained at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport by officers from the Directorate of Criminal Investigation for allegedly being in possession of sensitive election materials. The then director, George Kinoti, said the Venezuelans were also ferrying expired ballot papers. They were also allegedly in possession of special IEBC badges. IEBC and DCI would later reach a middle ground. However, that saw the foreigners set free. But Wafula Chebukati did not hide his disapproval of DCI's actions.
Their unlawful detention raises fundamental questions about the outgoing government's commitment to midwife a free, fair, and democratic election.
And as a result of this confirmation, this morning I've issued instruction that the suspect in custody to be released and handed over to IEBC.
As elections drew closer, tensions were rising. President Kenyatta, who was serving his last 5-year term, was locked in a propaganda war with his outgoing Deputy President William Ruto. The real logic and reason behind the fallout remained unknown, but the two could not agree on anything. Despite his days in office being numbered, Uhuru Kenyatta was at home on the campaign trail, with Raila emerging as the favorite and Ruto on the back foot.
Nia yangu ni kuhakikisha ya kwamba wale ambao wataendelea hawatakuwa watu ya kunyanyasa na kuibia wananchi.
Tuesday, August 2022, Kenyans braved the cold to discharge their democratic right. No ugly scenes were reported. Politicians pledged to uphold peace and called on their supporters to remain peaceful. On the day when the results were to be announced, both Raila Odinga and William Ruto's supporters filled the Bomas of Kenya grounds to the brim. Bomas of Kenya was the chosen national tallying center for the IEBC exercise. Fears of a breakout of violence spread. Even before the official announcement of the results, it was evident that Ruto had taken the day. At home, many Kenyans were glued to their TV screens, while others online, following the live broadcast from Bomas of Kenya. Soon, ugly scenes were witnessed as IEBC chairs stepped forward to announce results. Some foreign observers left the venue as the chaos reigned. But normalcy was restored and Wafula Chebukati took charge.
I, Wafula Chebukati, Chairperson of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, hereby declares that Ruto William Samoei of ID number 6847208 has been duly elected as the president.
As Chebukati made the announcement at the Serena Hotel, 4 commissioners were addressing the media. According to Irene Masit, Juliana Cherera, Justus Nyang'aya, and Francis Wanderi, Chebukati's numbers were not adding up.
Our reasons to decline to take ownership of the results so declared and announced are as follows. 1. That the aggregation of the percentages of the results scored by the 4 presidential candidates who were on the ballot as declared by Mr. Chebukati presented to us a mathematical absurdity that defies logic. Raila Odinga, 48.85%, William Ruto, 50.49%, Waiga Maure, 0.27%, Wajakoya George, 0.44%. This summation gives us a total of 100.01%.
The dispute headed to the courts after Raila's side rejected the poll outcome. But as they say, when it rains, it pours. For Azimio coalition, things were not rosy. Raila's legal team could not convince the Supreme Court judges who unanimously upheld Ruto's win.
The presidential election petition number E005 of 2022 as consolidated with the presidential election petition numbers E001, 2, 3, 4, 7, and 8 of 2022 are hereby dismissed.
According to IEBC, Raila Odinga garnered 6.9 million votes, which is equivalent to 48.85% of votes cast. On his part, Ruto had 7.2 million ballots and scored 50.49% of the total votes cast. George Wajakoya and Maure Wahiga scored 0.6% of the votes cast collectively. The 4 commissioners continue with their opposition to the results. Despite the outcome, conspiracy theories have emerged. Amid accusations of vote rigging, Kenya Kwanza coalition claimed that some Azimio leaders tried to hack the IEBC systems with the aim of subverting Kenya's will. British tabloid The Guardian revealed a team led by Israeli hackers who confessed to have hacked into senior Kenya Kwanza officials Dennis Itumbi and David Churchill's mobile phone and mined data. The investigative piece also uncovered how the hackers disrupted elections in over 30 countries across the world. The group that is popularly known as Team George under the leadership of one Tal Hanan demonstrated how they accessed Itumbi and Churchill's phones. The two are close allies of President Ruto. Itumbi led an aggressive online campaign for the current president. Before his appointment to the energy portfolio, Churchill was in charge of Ruto's campaign team. The hackers refused to mention the identity of the clients, but Kenya Kwanza points an accusing finger at Azimio leadership.
Mr. Odinga has always claimed that it is the deep state and the system that rigs elections and steals elections from him. He not only had the system and the deep state, but he also had the means to hack into electoral systems and to those of his competitors.
Meanwhile, Azimio leader Raila Odinga insists that he did indeed pay hackers not to access President William Ruto's campaign machinery, but to get evidence from IEBC servers. However, Kenya Kwanza leadership say Raila Odinga is a perennial loser who always cries wolf after every election. They say he was in fact planning to rig elections.
Tumesema tunataka hiyo mambo ya sava ifunguliwe ili ijulikane kitu gani iko ndani yake.
Sava ilikuwa wazi wakati kila Mkenya alipatiwa kura apige kura. Ilikuwa wazi wakati IEBC ilituma ile matokeo kwa ile mtandao. Ilikuwa wazi wakati tulikuwa kule Bomas of Kenya kura zikihesabiwa. Ilikuwa wazi wakati yule alishinda alitangazwa. Ikawa wazi wakati tulienda kotini, kotini ikaamua. Sasa hii sava mnatuambia tufungue ni gani? Si hawa watu wanatubeba ufala.
After the hacking revelations, the opposition had remained mum as Kenya Kwanza continues accusing them of hacking attempts. The hacking, whether real or not, pose a great threat to democracy, not just in Kenya, but across the world. It has been 6 months since Kenyans went to the polls, yet the dust still lingers and pronouncements from the political remain fiery and defiant.
Hii serikali ni kampuni na ni ya shares. Si ndio? Ni ya shares. Kuna wenye kampuni, wale wako na shares mingi, kuna wale wako na chache, kuna wale hawana. Sasa nyinyi mliinvest kwa hii kampuni ya William Ruto na Rigathi Gachagua. Sasa lazima mvune.
The opposition led by Raila Odinga still holding that the elections were not free and fair and that his victory was stolen. He has threatened mass action and refused to recognize Ruto's win. While at it, he is pushing President William Ruto to reduce the cost of living as per his campaign pledge. Currently, President Ruto's coalition controls both the Senate and the National Assembly. This puts him on top of the political food chain as he can push through whatever motion he proposes. For Raila Odinga, the dream of leading this nation remains just a dream, unless he tries yet again and succeeds 5 years from now. William Samoei Ruto becomes the first deputy president to win an election after beating a candidate supported by the so-called system led by an incumbent. Tackling the high cost of living and corruption are the two main agendas that may determine his win or loss in his quest for a second term. After all, it's all about influence, not power.